All right. So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I don't normally like to go after lunch, but we didn't have lunch yet, right? So everybody should be wide awake and ready to go. Man, it seems like just a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago that we were here. These weeks are going pretty fast in between. So I think that's a good thing, right?
Right.
And I'm definitely enjoying the process. A couple of people reached out to me from the last time we got together and said that the limiting belief exercise really helped them to work through some things. I don't know. Hopefully, the rest of you got something out of it as well. And if you didn't get enough last time, hopefully you'll get it this time, because we're gonna go through that again inside of the workshop, the mastermind. And you might wonder, well, we just did that. And the idea is that one of the problems with us people today, we like everything instant. We want it right away, and it don't work that way. In fact, I heard a guy, a gentleman, I guess I would consider, I would consider him a mentor. He's ahead of where I'm at with it. He explained something very interesting today. You may have even seen him. He was on Facebook, and he talked about most people don't realize a tree grows two directions at the same time. And when you think about it, it obviously does, right? Because the roots got to grow down and the trunk has to grow up. And that may not seem like a significant event, but it is because of the fact that he said that's one of the best representations of how life really works, is that the roots, they use this process that they grow away from light and gravity. And the trunk is the opposite. It grows towards light and gravity. And in that process, the roots grow first, right? When you plant a seed, the roots have to establish themselves. In fact, he said it looks the same underneath a tree as it does above. There's a very similar image. You can imagine when you've seen trees pulled up, they have a branch-like look. And his whole point was this, the significance is this, that in life, to be successful, what you do in the dark, in the dirt, in the wet, in the moist, is where the pressure is, because you have to grow, you have to press down through dirt. The tree has to, in order for the trunk to grow up, and it has no resistance. It just grows. And that's how life really works for us, depending on how well we work with that downward movement, what we do in the dark. This would be what we do in the dark, right? We're not getting no glamour for being here.
Right.
You know, we're here, we're driving 6 hours from Vegas, some of us, to be here. You know? And so this is what you're doing right now is very, very important.
Right.
And the other key to that is the repetition. We used to say in the hair industry that repetition is the mother of skill. That's how you get it. And so, yes, we're going to repeat a few things because I find we don't get it the first time we do it. We definitely don't get it the way we need to get it, to put it to make it operational, some people like to say. But I thought let's backtrack a minute and not even just talk about limiting beliefs. Let's first, in the session today, let's talk about beliefs in general. Like, how do we come to believe what we believe? And how does belief work? So I'm going to share with you 10 rules about beliefs. The first rule is, well, the first thing I want to say is the power, whatever we believe, you'll find a way to make it come true. Even if it's to your detriment. That's the scary part. Whatever you believe, you'll find a way to make it come true. Why is that? It's because we're situated in our minds to always be right about what we believe, even though it's to our detriment. I've heard people say, well, I'm not good at public speaking. And then they'll find a way to make it come true. They'll let themselves be too nervous or not prepared or however they make it come true. And then they'll say, see, I told you. You know, you forced me or pushed me to do this, I told you I wasn't good at that. Even to their detriment, they're going to find a way to be right, even for things they want to do. So beliefs obviously are one of the most important subject matters for success. Is, you know, if we can't get our belief systems right, we're in trouble. So the first rule is this. We didn't consciously choose our beliefs. We didn't consciously choose our beliefs. We actually soaked them up from our life experiences when we were too small to know whether they would hurt or help us. We didn't consciously choose our beliefs. We soaked them up from our life experiences when we were too small to know whether they would help us or hurt us. So it said that somewhere between 0 and 7, you don't have the ability to evaluate whether something is true or not. And that makes sense to me. I still remember I was probably right about that age. I think I was in the first grade. Yeah, I would have been in the first grade. And it was Christmas time, and the bathroom was between my room and the living room. And I almost peed in the bed because I was too scared to go out because I was told you shouldn't see your toys before Christmas morning or Santa would put pepper in your eyes or something. Yeah. And I was too scared. Well, why would a 6-year-old, 5-year-old believe in a Santa Claus, a fat man coming through the chimney? Because we're too young. We don't have the ability to evaluate what's real, what's true, and what's not. And so most of our beliefs is also said that most of what we believe about life today, we picked up before we were 7. And we're still living from that program, those programs. And so this is very important. So let me ask you first, what belief do you hold today that may be affecting your ability to be successful at the level you want, to make the money you want? Because if it's true, as a woman, as a man believeth, that is the problem. Mm-hmm. So what belief do you believe today? Where did you get your beliefs from? Where would you say you got your beliefs from? How did you develop this belief system that you have?
From my parents.
In large part, right? Our parents are probably the soul. So you got to pray for who your parents are, right? You really got to pray to God. Please give me good parents, or give me good grandparents so I can have good parents, or something like that. And so, yes, we believe what we believe because our parents told us certain things. And we believed them because we were too young to evaluate whether they were true or not.
I heard a gentleman say, 3 beliefs, we get it from 3 sources: parents, religion, and government.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you've got parents, you've got your social environment. I mean, I remember some things I can't even share that make people in my neighborhood had me believing about some stuff, you know, because I was too young to know any better. They told me, you know, the older guys told me this is how it works, and I thought that's how it worked. You know, I didn't know. Credible others, government, your preachers, your teachers, they tell us a lot. These are 2 of the sources. Another source is repetition. Repetition is the mother of belief as well as the mother of skill. If you hear something enough, if you hear, I debate with my iPhone friends, not my iPhone friends, I am an iPhone user, let me be clear about that. I debate with my Android users. Any Android users in here? Yeah, see, you know, we all know Android is second class, right? Citizens. We all know that, right? Why do we know that? Because iPhone has did a great job of convincing us that iPhone is the best phone, when in fact some of my friends that really study technology, they believe Android is probably better at this point.
Or the Starbucks is the best coffee until McDonald's changed the
Try to tell Miss Bev Starbucks isn't the best coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
Beliefs, okay?
Yeah.
So you hear something enough. There's a Starbucks on every corner, every grocery store. You hear it enough, you see it enough, you're going to believe it's the best. Personal experience, obviously. You know, I always remember one of my clients, she actually had her daughter had been moved away from here, moved to Georgia years ago, 10 years. And you know how young girls, they're agile and they can sit on the floor and curl their hair, and she's curling her hair, and she left the curling iron on the floor, didn't unplug it. The mother goes into the room to tidy up her room, no shoes. She steps on that curling iron with the full weight of her body. She says, Gerry, she's been gone for 10 years. Still today, every time I walk in her room, that's the first thing I look for, is that curling iron. Because personal experiences, you don't forget stuff. You know, you start. So some of us have been traumatized. So that is the first belief rule, is that know that much of what you believe, you started believing it when you were too young to know better. And so, depending on who your parents were, you know, you might have more, some of us have more trouble than others. Okay, I'll just say that. The second belief rule: beliefs create or attract results, circumstances, and experiences of our life. Regardless of what we believe, we'll find a way to create consistency between our life and our beliefs. We're built not to have one attitude inside and our surroundings different. Our surroundings will always find a way to match what we ultimately believe, even if we step beyond those beliefs for some reason. You know, that's why it's believed that some athletes that, you know, come out of the hood, they do really well, make all this money, but they find a way to just get back into that situation. That they couldn't get the hood out of them, right? That was there, and they find a way to make that environment around them match. But this is the main thing I want to say about this part that I like is, you know, when you talk about beliefs and the law of attraction and all of that, they make it sound pretty mysterious and pretty woo-woo when it's really not. It's very simple. Whatever you believe, you will attract people and circumstances, and you'll be attracted to people and circumstances. And that's one of the main ways that belief materializes. It's just that that's the way your feet will take you. If you think that working in the business, working a 9 to 5 isn't the way to go, if that's what you believe, you'll be much more attracted to business opportunities. And your ears will perk up when you hear somebody talking about business opportunities. And you'll be attracted to them. You'll find a way to attract those people to you because you're interested. It's a value. Another way we do this is we find a way to distort or interpret our situations to make what we believe seem true. And that's seeming true is just as bad as being true to the person that it seems true to. Somebody says, well, I believe my spouse is not being faithful. They will actually be interpreting everything through that lens. They get a call and they don't stay on the phone long. They say, oh no, but I know what you're doing. It may be, it may have just been a bad call. But they'll interpret everything through that belief that they have. I watch myself do it all the time. I'll be thinking something and I can hear something on the radio and I'll think they said something that had to do with what I was thinking, and it wasn't. I was like, oh no, that's not what they said. But if my mind is there, that's where you start hearing things in a certain way. And so that's another way that we make our beliefs come true or seem to be true, and it's just as dangerous if they seem to be true. The other way is we act in such a way that people comply with what we believe by acting in a way that confirms what we believe. We will, in other words, we will provoke people to line up with our beliefs. One of our teachings we do, like in leadership, if you're a leader and you believe your staff member is lazy, you will interpret everything they do through that. And everybody looks lazy at some point in time, right? We could all be accused of appearing to be lazy. But you'll interpret things like that, and you will end up provoking them to be lazy, because you'll be telling them things like, or acting like, or giving that impression like, you don't work hard enough. And they will actually eventually accommodate you. Man, it don't do no good to work hard around here. They don't appreciate anything. They don't recognize it. And so these are ways that we make our beliefs come true. So it's not how would you say it? It's not mysterious. It's very, it's very much the way it goes. When the Israelites, when God told them to go take the promised land, they believed that they looked like grasshoppers. Mm-hmm. So which direction did they move? They were not attracted to the promises of even God. They like, no, we ain't feeling that. We know you created an infinite universe, but we ain't seeing, we ain't feeling that. So our beliefs are so powerful. The third belief rule is significant negative emotional experiences create beliefs that aren't helpful. And these beliefs pull our attention, our focus, to what we don't want. And you may have heard me say at some point in time, I would imagine you've heard me say that that's the key to success, is to focus only on what you want. And only on what you want. Never let the devil tempt you to try to figure out a problem. Matter of fact, it's a pop quiz. Since you got a problem, and I'm saying don't focus on the problem, well, how do you fix the problem? What do you do?
Focus on the solution.
Yeah, and we say focus on the solution, but we don't know the solution, so how do we focus on the solution? Yeah, that's ultimately where you're going to end up at. But I shared with you guys a little flip.
Look into the future. Decide what all of that looks like.
You can look into the future, but there's a very simple route. And I'm only asking because it took me a year to remember to do this. And so I know it takes a minute for people to catch it. If you're focused on something you don't want, right? Because you're not focused on what you want. You're focused on, you don't want the bills. You don't want the problem of not being able to pay your bills. So you're focused on something you don't want. And if it's true, as a woman, as a man focuses, as they think, so shall it be. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. The more, it doesn't make sense to us, right? The more I focus on not being able to pay my bills, the more I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. You just get more of it. So the simple solution, write this down, because it probably still, I'm going to ask you probably every month.
Ask yourself different questions.
What's that?
Is it ask yourself different questions?
You got to ask a different question, and this is the question. What do I want instead? This takes you directly to the solution. Takes you directly to the future that you want. All of that, but it's the fastest route there. Because sometimes if you try to just look into the future, your mind, who knows where it ends. But if I can't pay my bills, what do I want instead of not being able to pay my bills? That's your solution. If I'm making $50,000, I can't pay my bills, what do I want instead? It could be something as simple as, well, I want to make $100,000. That should pay my bills and set up some vacations this year even. Mm-hmm. So that's the question. That's how you flip it, because you do got to deal with the problem, but Satan would tempt us to focus on the problem itself, which is a trap.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But I said all of that to say, why do we focus on what we don't want so much? And it's because of these significant emotional events that took place. We have trauma. I'm not talking about trauma like you was in the Vietnam War and you seen your best friend killed. Yeah, that's real. That's some serious trauma. But when you lose the church, I lost 2/3 of my revenues during the recession. That was traumatic.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't need counseling behind it. I probably could have used it. But it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Because, lifestyle has to change. A lot of things have to change when you lose 2/3 of your revenues. So that trauma will keep you focused on that problem that you had. Mm-hmm. And it's the problem that you don't want. So why are we focusing on it? I know I had a client once, she had she couldn't think, she couldn't see straight because she had 9 staff members, 6 left, and she couldn't run her business very well because all she kept thinking about is, what if the other 3 leave? And every time she hired somebody, well, what if they leave? Because of that trauma, it keeps pulling her back, and she's focusing on what she doesn't want. What is she going to do? She's going to provoke people to leave. It's going to seem that there are some people, every time somebody does something a little weird, they're trying to get their clients and leave, which is, in the end, she's going to provoke them to leave. She's going to act in ways to make them leave. And that's the danger of focusing on what we don't want. But why? It's because of those significant emotional events. We have to get healed from that. We have to get over that emotional event. What we do in the workshop, that's one way to do that DAC, that ADAC process, which we'll do again today, to where you got to be able to release that. You can pray, you can do whatever you need to do, but you got to release that trauma because it's going to keep you, it's going to draw you back and keep you focused on that. And that's a setup because the more you focus on it, this is the deal, you're making pictures of it. When I focus on 2/3 of my income, then I'm seeing the house that I used to have that I don't have anymore. I'm seeing the money, the things that I lost. Your mind says, oh, you want to lose more things? That's been 10, 13, 14 years ago. You want to lose some more stuff going forward? Oh, you like losing stuff? No, I hate it. But why are you focused on it? Because of the trauma. And I have to get released from it. So that's a big one that we need to get in touch with. Number 4, this is perhaps the key point about beliefs. Everything is true to the person who believes it. Therefore, evaluating beliefs based on whether they're true or false isn't helpful. Everything is true to the person who believes it. That's how we're situated in our minds. It was always funny to me when people, you have a debate with somebody and say, you think you're always right. Well, who's trying to be wrong? I don't know nobody think they're wrong. Ain't nobody trying to be wrong. Yeah, I think I'm right. And you must think you're right too. That's why we're locked in this conversation. You think you're right and I think I'm right. We all think we're right. But when you really understand the self-fulfilling process of beliefs, you understand that that's not fruitful. That's not even the question whether you're right or wrong. The question is, does this help you or hinder you? Does this belief help you? Because a smart person understands, or a person that understands this knows that, of course, they think what they believe is right. I don't believe God's going to come through for me this time. As much as we believe God, well, I don't know about you, but I've sometimes questioned whether this thing was going to work out the way I had hoped. Well, that's irrelevant. The fact that you don't believe it. If you're smart, what you'd be checking out, is this a good thought for me to be having? Mm-hmm. And if you remember what we've been talking about, you're making it all up anyway. I had a whole new level of revelation on that this last week, is that, I know we're making it up. I've been teaching it for years, but it really just hit me at a whole new level. It's like God said, Gerry, you do realize everything, we're not talking about what's in the Bible, it's not. We're talking about what you can have, what you can be, and what you can do, what other people can have, do, and be. None of it's true, right? The good or the bad or the ugly, none of it's true. It's all being made up. And that just set me free at a whole new level. I just was able to so what, you believe that? Doesn't mean anything because you believe it. Just because you believe it don't make it true. And once you really adopt that attitude or really that understanding, then you're able to ask that question, does this belief help me? And if it doesn't help me, it's so much easier to kick it to the curb because it ain't true no way. It's not based in any reality. And when you get there, now you can decide on what you want to believe. We know what we want to believe. We simply want to be in agreement with God. But until you handle that situation, you can't even be in agreement with God a lot of times. And I don't know about you, but I know I ain't no super Christian. I mean, there's some stuff God says about me that I should be believing. I ain't really got there yet. I'm getting there though, faster and faster every week, every month. But there's some stuff, where He says I can do all things. Okay, I can do all things up to here, maybe. But He said all things. So this is giving you once you get control, this type of control, you can take in more of that. You can really see like, wow, because that's real. That's the only real thing there is, what He said. And you say, and since all this other stuff, I'm totally making it up. This has no relevance in my life. This has no power over me. I'm just going to move here. And what did we do last month? I'm going to find evidence for this belief over here. And I mean, I found I did one. I had to do a couple of limiting beliefs, one yesterday and one today. And man, especially the one yesterday, I want to invite some of you guys to focus on things that you believe spiritually, things that are related to God. And one of mine was that. Let me see what it was, because I try to be transparent. I ain't gonna tell you all my business, but I try to be transparent. I can be open sometimes. Let me see matter of fact, I should be able to read it from here. Oh, one of them was, God will always, I changed it to God will always supply all of my needs and give me the desires of my heart. But my initial belief was, God don't always supply all of my needs.
Right.
And give me the desires of my heart, especially in the time that I want. Well, I had to work on that. And man, I found so much good evidence. And maybe when we do the workshop, I'll share some of that with you. That really shifted me in that realm. That no, He says, no, I will supply all of your needs, and I'll give you the desires of your heart, period. And He starts showing me all the times that He gave me, and all the times He gave the people in the Bible, like, what is that? The Red Sea. God, He was showing me all the different ways He does it. He was like, you see the Red Sea? Right when it looked like there was no other way, I still gave them, I still supplied all their needs. And so I was like, wow. So now I'm ready this week anyway. I'm ready. So number 4 is you have to understand that just because you believe it, it isn't true. And you have to be able to kick that to the curb and understand that our beliefs are self-fulfilling. Number 5, the other way to determine, and this is kind of like the gut punch, you have to throw one in. This is real for everybody. Another way to determine what you believe is to look at the results you're getting. What you believe will show up in reality, creating certain results. If you're getting a certain result, you probably believe that it can and will happen to you. Then you find a way to make it come true. So this is the good or the bad. You find a way to make it come true. But I call this the gut punch because it's so real. You have to look at the results in your life. And in the areas where you're not getting the results and you've been, there is a such thing as seed time and harvest. It's like, there's sometimes it's okay, you got some time. But if you've been doing this for a long time, then this is simply saying, it's not an indictment on anybody, it's simply saying that there is a belief that's producing the results you don't want. And one of my mentors, he says it another way. He says some of us got more belief for what we can't have than what we can have, is what it boils down to. But the cool thing is that we know the answer. So we look at our lives and we see, well, why isn't this working? I've been working at this. I think I've given it ample time. God don't need the rest of my life to make this thing work. Why isn't it working? And then you want to uncover what do I really believe about that? Let me be honest. As one of my coaching clients said the other day, she said it takes courage to be honest about some of this. And then it takes courage to do what it takes to move beyond it. But what beliefs, what's blocking? But this is where you find out, because I was talking with one of my sons, and he was talking about his son, my grandson, and he said, well, at this age, he doesn't have limiting beliefs, you know, because kids, they have what do they call it, a radical belief that they can be in the NBA, they can do anything. I said, I'm sure that's true, but everybody has limiting beliefs, even kids. He has some limiting beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs. So the question is, what is not working in your life? That's one place you can look to find out where are some limiting beliefs. Because that's what's holding it back. You're believing something, or God's not giving us the whole story. Because he said straight up, as a man, as a woman believes, so are they. Number 6, a very effective way to replace beliefs that don't serve you is to adopt the witness posture. This means to watch with awareness the process of how what you believe creates what happens in your life. To adopt a witness posture. Now, you guys have been, you know, working with that. I don't know how many people are doing it in the dark, outside of here, you know, really working on it for themselves. But I'll just keep telling you this one. I'll say this, I've heard a lot of people say this, and I believe it's true, is success is boring. That's why most people don't do it. Success, you know, the things you got to do to be successful, they're not all that exciting. You know, it's not big things. It's little things over and over and over and over again. Like, you know, doing push-ups, nothing exciting about push-ups. You know. And so that's one of the reasons we don't do it, but that's what it takes. Watching, I'm not going to say it's all that exciting, but I tell you what, it will change your life if you would do it every day. Because you'll start uncovering limiting beliefs. And not only will you start uncovering them, you'll start uncovering seeing how you're creating. And the whole idea is once you see how you do something, that aha changes your life. And I didn't believe this at first. I won't say I didn't believe it. I didn't think it was significant when I first learned that process. He says that as you start doing it, things that are detrimental to you, they'll fall away. And that gave me some hope for me and maybe other people, because I always thought sometimes I must be masochistic or something like that, because I don't know why I keep doing dumb stuff over and over again. He says, no, the only reason you do it over and over again is that you don't see how you're creating that result, because we're not masochistic. In fact, once we see how we're doing something that's ineffective, we naturally stop doing it. The problem, and think back on what did God say? Get a revelation. It's like the whole revelation thing. Once you see it and get it, you don't keep doing stupid stuff. And so that's what the watching a belief will do. You'll start seeing, how is this belief creating this in my life? And once it clicks, it's like an aha. If you were driving, like I went to driving school once. I've done more than once, right? trying to save money on tickets. I've been there a few times. But I remember this particular time I had a good experience because I learned some stuff. I had some revelation. I was like, oh man, he really actually helped me with my driving, because he told us that when you're driving on a curve, don't steer to the inside of the curve. Focus on the outside of the curve. Because when you go inside, you tend to overcompensate and take the curve harder. The outside of kind of like it'll kind of swing the car around if you're on the outside. How many people knew that? Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. I went to driver's ed when I was in high school. They should have told us that. I was old by the time I learned that. But that was like an aha. Well, you don't have to tell me anymore to do that. My mind don't even have to think about it automatically, because now that I have the aha and I understand it, I just naturally do it. A drunk man. If you got a man that's drunk and he's so drunk he's beating his head against the wall, I think people do that sometimes. They do stupid stuff like that. Once he sobers up, he's doing it now because he's not aware, because he's drunk. Once he sobers up and he becomes aware he's beating his head against the wall, you don't have to tell him to stop. Nobody's really trying to hurt themselves on purpose. It may seem that way, but really we don't understand what we're doing. People don't see in the marriage how they're creating the problem. They don't see in business. They don't see in different situations in life, once they actually get it, and that's what watching does. It actually, if you watch a belief or watch a situation, you actually see the steps that led you there. And once you get it, it's like, wow, okay. And you don't even have to try to stop doing it. You just stop doing it. That made me feel so happy, so much better about, my life, that it's like, oh, really? I thought I was masochistic. But I guess I'm not. I guess I'm not trying to hurt myself. I just don't get it sometimes. Do I have 2 6s? Let me see here. That's supposed to be. Wait, let me see. I'm a little lost here. 1 second.
Can you take that one back to that 6 that you had?
Yeah, that was okay. I don't have 2 6s, I guess. So belief rule number 7 is, once we've watched with awareness the creative process of how we create our life, we understand how to change what we created. As a result, we've caused a belief that doesn't serve us to fall away. And that's what I was just talking about. If somebody, I don't know if you ever see people do card tricks. I mean, some card tricks are pretty impressive, but once they show you how they did it, you're not impressed anymore. It's pretty easy. You see, well, that's surely not magic. Whether you believe it or not, that's not magic. And again, the whole power of all of this for us is we can choose to believe God instead of being under a stronghold of the enemy. Once we take this kind of control of our lives. And that's another thing. You would think I was getting paid for talking about watching, but that's another thing, is part of what happens is we don't have control of our minds. As I told you before, one of my clients used to say, I told her, I said, you should be a comedian. She said, Gerry, I found out after going through this, my thoughts have been running around like little bad kids in the street, doing whatever they wanted to do. And that's how most of us live. Our thoughts just they go anywhere they want to go. Well, this process would slow you down, and you'll start, and the only reason they're going where they want to go, we're not aware of them in the first place. We're living outside of our thought life. It's just happening. But once you slow down and you start becoming aware of them, you can't do anything about something you're not aware of, but you realize that, ooh, I'm feeling bad because I was just sitting here, you just got a call from your husband say, that bill you didn't pay, this and this. A few minutes ago, you were singing to the radio and everything. You was feeling fine. Now, all of a sudden, you got this you don't feel so good. And sometimes we don't even make the connection. I just don't feel good, I think I'm gonna go back home. I was gonna go shopping. I was gonna do this. I think I'm gonna go back home. And we don't realize we're being controlled by that thought. But once we start getting conscious of it, now we can decide. And once we get conscious of it, we can decide, or we can remember, Gerry said that ain't real anyway. That thought I'm having ain't nothing but a thought. And it doesn't honor God, doesn't honor me, doesn't help me. Kick it to the curb and focus on what I want instead. What I want instead. I'm not gonna sit here. I still ain't got no money in the bank to pay the bill. But what I want to think about right now is, wow, what if I could double my income? What if I could do this? What if I can do that? I want to think about something that feels a lot better and is productive for where I want to go. And the more you do that, your mood starts changing instantly. You can change, because you knew your mood can change instantly, right? If I told somebody in here that I just won, or I just got awarded $10 million, and I'm gonna take everybody on a vacation anywhere you want to go, or buy some cars in here, everybody be a lot happier. A lot happier right away. If I just say, hey, God put it on my heart, give everybody $50,000 in here today, everybody be a lot happier right away. And you don't know if I'm gonna give it to you for real or not. You won't have had it by then, but you be feeling like you just got it. And that'll change you. Well, the same thing. You can change yourself like that by thinking about what you want. You know. Matter of fact, I always like to say, God helped us with this. When you think about what you don't want, He doesn't want you jumping up saying hallelujah, because He knows whatever you're thinking about, you're creating. Because as a woman thinketh, as a man thinketh, so shall it be. So what does He do? That's a sign. He's trying to tell you, wake up. Change your focus. What you're thinking about right now is not good. I'm not going to have you singing, shouting praises to me and hallelujah while you're just destroying your life in this moment. So anytime you don't feel good, it's because you're thinking about something you don't want. Same thing if you sat on that chair and there was a big nail there and you didn't have any emotional feelings, any physical feelings, you could bleed to death and wouldn't even know why. So so the same thing with your emotional feelings. That's one of the purposes they serve. They warn you that you're going in the wrong direction. So that this is very helpful is what I find. Number 8, the key step in replacing beliefs is that don't serve you, is you discover what you believe. That's the key step, is you gotta discover what you believe. Most people aren't aware of what they believe and have never examined their beliefs. One way to figure out what you believe is to complete the following sentence. I am. Who are you? And when you say I am, I always tell people, be honest with yourself. Yeah, there's some things you think you are that's good, but there's some things you think you are that aren't so good. Go ahead and put both of those out there. People are. You might think people are created in God's image. I know we're Christians, but there's some other things you might think about people that may not be helpful for you. The world is. I know some people, and I always think this, I'm glad I don't feel this way though. Some people say, man, life is so hard. Well, that's really going to be a setup. If you believe that, so shall it be. Another way to discover, we've already talked about, is you can discover what you believe, is what areas are not working for me. There are some beliefs there. Another way, I sent you guys, I don't know if anybody still has it, I'll remember to send it out again, is I sent you out a 100 of the top limiting beliefs inventory. Take the time to go through that. Because you can't do something about something you don't know about. If you don't realize you have that limiting belief, we say, until you uncover, what is the quote? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it's ruling your life. And you think it's fake. You might even think, I guess there's some religions that think it's God. God wants this for me. It's like, no. Until you make those unconscious beliefs conscious, they're ruling your life. And you can't do anything about it, so you think it's fake. Belief rule number 9, as long as you continue to hold on to the same beliefs, you'll continue to get the same results. So you can be right if you want to. You can say, but I know I'm right. I don't think the world works this way. I don't think this. I don't think people can be trusted. I don't think you can do all of those things and you can be as right as you want to be. But you'll keep getting the same results. To get different results, you must be willing to adopt different beliefs. The beliefs of others who are getting the results you want is one of the best ways and the quickest ways. I know Dr. Craig talks about going down to Dr. Price's school. And I'm sure I hear him all the time talk about different beliefs that Dr. Price had that he didn't have. And he adopted those beliefs. I did the same thing with Bruno. I was thinking about this the other day. I didn't have the belief that we were paying $3,000 rent. The mall was gonna be $12,000. I'm saying, you sure this stuff gonna work, Bruno? I had to borrow his belief, to tell you the truth. I still didn't. I said, I'm just gonna borrow your belief. I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust you know what you're talking about. I'm gonna trust you ain't trying to set us all up, because it won't do you no good either. But I had to borrow his belief. And that's the only way I was able to move forward. I said, I believe, since you say it works, I'm gonna believe it works, and I'm gonna try it. But my belief would have never led me there, because I felt like that was too much money, and I felt like we couldn't make enough money to pay that rent. I had a lot of competing beliefs with that concept.
How did you, you say your income, you lost 70% of your income, was it 70%?
We lost, I say 3/3, or 3/4, 3/3, that's all, right?
Okay, yes, but
No, 2/3 is what it was, I'm sorry, yeah, 2/3.
Okay, so how did you change your beliefs to believe that you could recover from that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually this information I'm sharing with you right now. It started with, because first we were just fighting it. We were just struggling and trying to, we were like drowning and trying to keep from drowning, right? So we just going at it. And as God, as I said, He will supply our needs. That's a thank you. That's some more evidence. I didn't write that evidence down, because I was leaving a meeting, a problem-solving meeting, and God, that's when He told me that thing I like to always share with you guys. He said, the problem ain't the problem, Gerry. The way you're thinking about the problem is the problem. And that's where it all started for me, is that I was focused on the problem instead of what I wanted. And as I started learning, and actually this was about the same time I started getting involved with this information, as I started learning this information, and it was the watching. When I started watching, learning that process and watching, I was able, because the whole idea is this whole emotional thing. I never gave a lot of stock to how you feel. As a matter of fact, I was felt like that's pretty flaky of us. You tend to move based on how you feel, but that's real. If you feel down, you normally, it's gonna take a lot of energy to go to the gym if you're feeling depressed. So we do a lot of stuff, and so through watching, I was able to start controlling how I felt, and and my mood and my state. Because up until then, every time I go into the salon and there's 2 people working, and rents, back then we had $27,000 rent in that one store, and we got 3 people on a busy Thursday morning. This is not looking good, because we ain't got $10,000 even in the bank. And I would just get sick. My stomach would just kind of go in knots, and I'm probably walking around provoking people because now I got an attitude. Well, because I'm believing, man, we ain't gonna make it again this week. And I'm doing all of this, but once I started learning this, I started learning how to control my mood, because within a month or so, I got to where I could walk in the salon. Nobody had to be working on Thursday morning. Wouldn't bring me down, because I knew you're making it all up. That ain't got nothing to do with rent, and that ain't gonna help you to get the rent either. You're making it up. And I just started telling myself, and I just started focusing on what I wanted to believe. What do you want to believe? I'm believing, my mantra then was, how am I having 25 busy, skilled hairdressers? 25 busy, happy, skilled hairdressers, because they make money. Skilled, happy hairdressers, busy, and that became my focus. And it's not like magic. It didn't happen next week, but we slowly moved out of that. And just by using these processes, that's why I teach them. They're real ways to, using your faith. These help you use your faith, because your emotions will get in the way of your faith. You feeling bad enough, you're like, God, I'm trying to believe you, but I'm gonna just have to go to sleep right now. I'm just depressed. I'm trying to believe you. But when you can take control of your own mind, and God tells us that to do that, right? He says, what does He say about joy? Matter of fact, He even tells us, in our troubles, count it all a joy. He talks about our state of mind so much. He says, I forget some of the scriptures. We got some preachers here. What does He say about joy, about us having joy? About us creating our own joy? He invokes us to do this, because that mood will mess you up. And so that's how I started doing it, Dr. Craig, as I learned these, because and to tell you the truth, I've had moments of faith before I understood this, that was able to get me out of situations, but it seems to happen not as consistently as I like. You know, like right now in my life when stuff's not working, I have the ability now to sit down. Like I said yesterday, I had to deal with some limiting beliefs. So I was much better. Hour after I dealt with those limiting beliefs, I did another one this morning, much better. I ended up getting a call from the city over a contract we just talked about yesterday. Say, I got good news. I want you to, y'all set up some time for the end of the month to talk to the district managers.
What did you do, Jerry, as you look at the limited beliefs as far as scriptural concern, like you said, the scriptures, what you knew about God and things, plus applying these scriptures, how were you able to come out of that, you know, spiritually also? I mean, just to really climb out of that. You know, like
Okay.
you said, you know, the limited beliefs and things like that.
I'm gonna tell you exactly.
Yeah.
So you know I was gonna do this to you. We didn't talk, but you knew. Okay, so this is a few things that I did with that limiting belief. The limiting belief originally was, what it was, let me go up here and find out what it was. So I done forgot it, tucked away, I don't need the limiting belief no more. God will not always supply all my needs and give me the desires of my heart. He will not always do that. That's what, when I was honest with myself, I said, I gotta believe that. I know he do it a lot. He don't always do it. I mean, and that's the problem. Like, when I really need you to do it, I really need you to do it, God.
Right.
And that's what I was believing, like, I can't count on him like that. So I got rid of all of that, said, okay, God will always supply all my needs, always supply all my needs and give me the desires of my heart. So I started looking for proof. The Bible shows many examples of God coming through at the right time. I said Israel was one of those. Then I said, me and Dr. Craig, we chat people. I mean,
Yeah.
we ain't scared to chat. So I got a lot of my own stuff, but I went in chat and said, hey, give me some more stuff on the spiritual side. What did God do on timing with people? Abraham. He said, God, let me see. Abraham, right when he was sacrificing his son, God showed up right on time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not early, not late, right on time. So that was helping me to get, his timing is impeccable. He knows he's paying real close attention. And so I left from that. I said, God always allows me to prove my commitment without hurting anyone. He allows me. Joseph, he said, well, we know Joseph got sold in, and just when you would have thought, man, it's all over with, promoted him to number 2 spot in the nation.
Good.
It said God's timing is impeccable. He said, so I said, God will fast forward me right to where where he planned for me. He never fails me. So even when stuff looks a little dire, I said, no, he's still coming in on time. He showed me. That's evidence, right? The Red Sea, we know the story. So I said, God will always make a way to meet my needs and give me the desires of my heart, even when it looks impossible. That helps that's good evidence for me believing this. Daniel, we know the lion's den. What I took out of that is God will protect me from the worst dangers. The very worst dangers he will protect me from. Nothing can stop his plans for me. Okay? Meshach, Abednego, and whoever that guy is. Shadrach, thank you. We know the story there, the fiery furnace. I said, God is always with me no matter who tries to hurt me and keep me from God's purpose for my life. That's real evidence. Lazarus. I said, Jesus showed up late on purpose. I said, sometimes Jesus wants to remind me to continue to trust him even after the fat lady sings. You know that saying, the fat lady sings, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Jesus told me a few years back, he said, you can trust me even after the fat lady sings. It ain't over. It ain't over, but it ain't over. Then I went into the desires of my heart. Well, I won't even go into that. I'll save those for the other. But that's how I use the spiritual part of this. Now, I have my own stuff. I have, when I needed my faith, when my son, we thought he had AIDS. God showed up in a week and changed everything in my life. That's how I ended up finding a zoo certificate.
Right.
As God showed me how to walk in faith. When I needed to remodify my home, God showed up right on time. There was a whole situation there, a whole nother story where it looked like the devil he had me down. God showed up within 3 hours, because now we're talking about timing. That was my problem, timing. It was 3 hours between whether I was going to be able to hold on to $60,000 or not. He showed up within that 60, and with those 3 hours. I had no idea if he would show up, but the thing worked out right then and there. When I built my home, the home of my dreams, God told me to get whatever I want. He's showing me more evidence. Desires of my heart. He said, he constantly, all the time I was building, he says, I said, should I get, I don't know if I can afford the sprinkler. So he said, he just kept telling me, get what you want. Get it now, get it. And I got everything I wanted within that home. He told me, what was that? Oh, we went to buy Q45s. My CEO told me, y'all need to spend some money. Well, desires of my heart. I'm talking about the desires now. They broke it up in two ways. It was like, I never had so much fun buying a car. It wasn't gonna cost, the money was gonna come out of the company, my paycheck was gonna stay the same, and we were running around just having fun, buying cars, you know, me and my partner. I never had so much fun. Let me see. When I came back from Phoenix to build my clientele, and when I came back from Dayton to build my clientele in Phoenix, God took me from $67 to $1,000 a week in 5 months. I was in London, and all types of things happened. So again, and I've got about 20 other pieces of evidence. But God is, and so yeah, I'll go in and go in the Bible, or I'll even ask chat to speed it up. I'll say, hey, give me some situations. And that's what really built my faith there, even more than my stuff did. When I started looking at what God did and the timing he was doing stuff in, like he said, oh, he ain't playing the same. None of that's no accident. When he told him no, he the ram in the bush. I know we read about it, we know about it, but the trick is when you are taking this and not just doing it in general, but you're dealing with a limiting belief you have. This is where it really hits. When you're dealing with something that's actually holding you back right now, and you flip it like this. You flip that particular belief. Not just God in general shows up on time, that's cool. But what about something you're really struggling with in that time? And then you flip this whole scenario and get in touch with, oh, there's more evidence for this than what I've been believing. That belief is gone. And even right now as I'm talking about it, because I need to do this a few more times, my spirit is being built up and like, oh, you can trust God.
And that process is called?
We call it observational thinking, and that's what we did last week, and we're going to do it again in the workshop. Because I want you, if you get this, you can take over your limiting beliefs.
Good.
You know, so the last rule is simple. To install a new belief, focus on it as often as possible in every way you can think of. And one of the ways, obviously, I'm encouraging you guys to, is to do it inside of this observational thinking that we're doing in the workshops. This way, because you see, I've already got this nice list. I can go back and read that tomorrow, read it the next day, keep reading it, and let my belief just keep building. Because one of the problems a gentleman shared with me last month, and I never thought about it, one of the problems we have with changing beliefs is you're asking somebody, they believe God can't do anything, you're asking them tomorrow to believe he can do everything. That's a pretty big, chisel there. What do you call it? It's a big gap. And so what this allows you to do, this process that you were learning, we're over here. First of all, we're just going to move to the middle and we're going to crash it. We're going to look at it and tear it down, break it and crash it. But that don't help you believe this yet. You just don't believe that anymore. You still need to believe this. So then we start finding evidence and we can just grow to over here. And I'm not talking about grow in a week, grow in a month. You can grow there today. And you can just solidify it the whole week. I don't know a magic number. I just say a week. You read it every day, and now you don't have this. You're not pent down over here anymore, and now you're just growing into that belief and just letting God minister to you every day about that belief. And you can just keep adding evidence, whatever you need to do, to where you feel like, oh, I got this. And I feel that about that now. I'm convinced now I can trust God. It's timing, and that was my real problem. It's like, will you do it in time, though? He said, listen, Gerry, how many times have I done it in time? Not just for you, Look in the Bible. I've done it in time. I've done it in impeccable time. Yeah. So that's our information to prepare for the mastermind. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Craig, for the question, because that got me all fired up now. Yeah,
Take 10 minutes and come back
Yeah.
and go back.
yeah, definitely.